bit more peaceful, at least that is the plan. Awesome, and the live stream is going. Okay, so welcome everybody. So Geshe said that he knows that, we're looking through the internet on our computer, on our TV as we gather for our activities. But he said, please in your mind create the feeling that we are all together, that there is an intimate connection happening here. And we gather, of course, to enhance our study and our practice. Sorry. All right. So we gather together to improve our study and our practice, and also hopefully to cultivate new understandings during these sessions. If you have really the kind of conviction from your side that I'm going to do my very best to improve, to grow in the practice, then it is absolutely the case that this will happen. So a lot of the holy beings, they've stated that in terms of our practice and our meditations, we can't expect that there is going to be change in 1, 2, or 3 days, right? That is not realistic. But if we maintain a constant practice and we examine what things are looking like from week to week, there should be incremental improvements that we can observe. And they also mentioned that the real important thing is consistency. So if we are a new meditator, the ideal structure is consistent short sessions. 5 to 10 minutes in the morning session very important, 5 to 10 minutes in the afternoon, and 5 to 10 minutes in the evening. Some teachers say that if we maintain that consistently, even for 3 days, you can start to notice something happening, changing in the mind. So it's about making the habit. If you do something for 3 days consistently, even as a beginner, you've started the process of establishing the habit. And if in addition to that consistency, you start to be able to observe the afflictions arising in your mind and are mindfully able to apply the antidotes, then from week to week, you should see a slight diminishing in the afflictions. So reminding you of the story that has been shared before about the meditator who had that guy that he really didn't like, and during the first week he couldn't even bear to walk down the same street if he saw that person walking along it. That was kind of the strength of his aversion. So the meditator noticed this in himself, right? And he saw that this was this mind of aversion, and he started to really put effort into cultivating the antidotes to that in his meditation. 2 to 3 weeks later, he was able to walk by that person in the street, but he still wasn't able to greet him, but he could bear to walk by him. So another couple of weeks after that with his meditation, he progressed even more. He was able to greet the person in the street and even have a brief conversation. However, as he was doing this, he noticed that within his mind, right, there was still a great deal of discomfort. So there was some sort of like potential, a negative potential still within the mind that hadn't been addressed, right? So he continued with his practice, and he came to what he felt was a very fine result, which is that not only did he meet this person and speak to him after a few more weeks of meditation, but the place where he met him was actually where the road was going beside a garbage dump. So it was a very stinky and filthy place. However, as he was speaking to this man and engaging in conversation, he was enjoying it so much that it seemed like there was a fragrant sort of odor, and that the place was a beautiful Pure Land. And so again. Right. And so Geshe said that, for us the experience is the same, right? Unless we're reaching a high level in our practice, it's difficult dealing with those we are angry with, isn't it? Yeah. So the idea here, though, with this story, we see that if one is a true practitioner, right, that we continue to practice methodically in stages, and what we see is that slowly we'll come to an improvement. And so we speak about the 4 doors that cause problems, or the 4 doors to the accumulation of faults. Out of those 4, right, the door of the afflictions is the most pernicious, is the most problematic. So we need happiness. We need to understand that the minds that are blocking our happiness are the afflictions. We need to look within ourselves and see which afflictions predominate, which are stronger, address those first, and then go to the other ones. And also remember the advice of the great Kadampa Geshe, right? Of the great Kadampa Geshe, who would kind of converse with the afflictions and say, if you come strongly, I am going to meet you with equal force. But if you leave me alone, then I will not bother you. So in this way, we need to be aware. Yeah. Yeah, so this particular, I see what that word is. Okay, so now I understand. Sorry. My bad. So this particular Kadampa Geshe in his earlier life, I can't remember his name. I feel like I should remember his name. Don't worry about the name, Geshe said. Okay. So anyways, in his earlier life, he was not just a thief, but a bandit. Right, like an evil bandit, and he changed his sort of mind and reached realization in that way. So also keep in mind that now is the time to try and engage and to try and improve. Chandrakirti reminds us that now is the time where we have all of the facility, all of the good fortune. So that's a nice piece of advice. It's a piece of advice that we should consider, and it's advice that should actually make us feel happy and positive. So we know, right, that if we fall. Thank you, Dave. Yes, it's Geshe Ben Gungyal. That is exactly right. I was like trying to Geshe Ben Gungyal to Dave, so I could do it. You're absolutely right, Dave. I couldn't bring his name forth for some reason. So back to Chandrakirti's advice. So the problem is, of course, that after this lifetime, we might not have such good fortune. If we fall into the unfortunate states of existence, then it is going to be very hard to train our mind. We have the freedom now, Chandrakirti reminds us, the freedom now to purify any negative karma that we have accumulated, the freedom to be able to cultivate any powerful, wholesome, virtuous karma that we wish. Yeah. So also this body is a gift, right? The basis for practice of this human body that we have right now is a gift that was given to us, the physical causes from our parents, and the more subtle causes, of course, are the result of our great effort accumulating virtue in previous lifetimes. We have to have this determination in our mind that having the freedoms and richnesses of this precious human life, now is the time to maximize that opportunity. If we were to waste this opportunity, then it would be something that is very sad. And as we want to engage in these wholesome practices, we know that if we do so with a body that is at ease and a mind that is relaxed, this can only enhance the practice. So we will take a moment to do the meditation to establish that. So just be relaxed, and at first let's think whether the thought is wholesome, whether the thought is unwholesome. I will not grasp at it. I will just let it arise and fall away. All of these thoughts, they're like clouds of different shades, of different hues. But with the breeze of mindfulness, we can clear away their obscuration from our mind. Any of the unhelpful feelings that are arising, any of the thoughts, mental projections that are arising, think that these coarser things that are perturbing the mind, that we breathe on a mirror, and slowly, like the condensation on the mirror, they dissolve into the one final point, and we relax into the fundamental mind. And in this way, our mind, our awareness, is like a butter lamp that is protected from any moving air, that is burning steadily. Its clarity and luminosity, that's what the clear and knowing nature of the mind is like. The nature of the mind is such that it can see any object, it can come to know any object, even to have a pramana, a valid cognition of that object. And so let's explore that within that mind, when anger is arising, that anger is the door to many faults, to many problems, to further unwholesomeness with our body and speech also. The problems that we have in our close circle, the problems between various groups of people, even up to the level of the problems of today's nation states, all of these are rooted to anger and aversion. Think as long as this anger remains, it is like the basis of the accumulation of all faults and mistakes. It is the cause of what makes us unhappy. It creates conditions where we also give rise to unhappiness in others. This power of anger creates so many faults. So if we think about the antidotes to anger, the antidote that is easier to generate, the antidote that can help us reduce an intense feeling of anger to a more middling experience of anger, diminish it completely, eventually, is the mind of love that we bring forth. So think first the feeling that I have for those in this life who are close to me, that feeling of love. Extend that gradually to all human beings. Extend that feeling of love to those in the animal realm. Eventually, this circle of love comes to encompass all 6 types of beings within samsara, and then think, as I love them, may they have happiness and the causes of happiness. I myself alone will bring them to happiness and the causes of happiness. Combine this mind of love with that superior altruistic intention. So we'll end there. Okay, so we'll begin the recitations. I wasn't sure what Geshe wanted to do next. He's like, is this new? So we'll do the recitations next. So we'll begin with the praise to the Buddha.
Ba chom den de jin she ba dra chom ba yang da ba zo be sang ge je ba dang sha zu den ba de wa she ba ji den chen ba che bu de we ka lo jo rwa la na me ba la dang mi nam gi den ba sang ge chom den de be cha wa sha kya tu ba la cha se lo che de kya zu ji ho den ba chong den de jin she ba dra chong ba yang da ba zo be sang ge je ba dang sha su den ba de wa she ba ji den chen ba che bu du we ka lo jo rwa la na me ba la da mi nam gi den ba sang ge chong den de be cha wa sha kya tu ba la cha se lo che de kya su chi ho den ba chong den de jin che ba dra chong ba yang da ba zo be sang je je ba dang sha su den ba de wa she ba ji den chen ba che bu du we ka lo jo rwa la na me ba la da mi nam gi ten ba sang ge chom den de be cha wa sha kya tu ba la cha se lo che de kya su chi ho. Short mandala. So ji pe gi jo je me do zhang je rab li je ni de gyang ba de sang ge jin do me de bo wa ge ro ku nang da je la che ba re sho i dam guru ratna mandala ka niryata yami.
And now the prayers for Guru Rinpoche. Just give those a sec to come up. Awesome, yeah, because I need them too. I forgot the paper. Ung orgin yugin ho jan zam pe ma ge sa dom bo la ya zen che gi ngo zhe nye pe ma zhe ne je su zha Ko du man ro man be go ke gi Jesu da ju gi jin ji lo shi shi su sol guru pe ma se di du zum sangye guru rimbo je ngunju kunda dewa chembe ja ba je gunje du de drabo sol wa de so jinji labdu so jinang sang we ba je shiwa dang sam ba lungi Benza Guru Bema Sirio, 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 Benza Guru Bema Sirio. Omahum Benza Guru Bema Sirio. So, a refuge and bodhicitta.
Chedang sogi chenam la chanchuk bardu dani kyasu chi dagi chiji jibe senangi drola penje sangi droba sho Chedang sogi chenam la Jangche bardu dani gyabsu chi Dagi chenyen jibe sonam gi Jola penche sangye jobar sho Chedang sogi chenam la Jangche bardu dani gyabsu chi Dagi chenyen jibe sonam gi Jola penche sangye jobar sho
오야 다 그놈이 다 년도 때라 아니 세 저도 같이 뭐 주요 발레 아니 다 가르쳐 좋아 있는 담만다 너도 담만다 냐만 담만다 가리나요 네 돈을 찍으면서 마세 리바지다
So then Geshe is going to share an instruction with you today, and this is the instruction when we are trying to place our mind in a state of concentrated meditation. We don't want to pay attention to any feelings that are arising. We don't want to pay any attention to any discursive thoughts and so forth. We just want to rest the mind in awareness. And this instruction is one of 6. It's the 6th one actually, and it is said to settle your mind like spread out raw cotton. Settle your mind like spread out raw cotton.
소소 녜니라 녜니라 가르 요나요 예모이나레 노도 이나레 좋아이나 어서 가르 요나요 녜 대주도 거기 지금에서
And this is connected to an attitude of no matter what arises, right? If it's an unpleasant feeling, if it's a discursive thought, if it is an affliction, whatever comes may comes. I'm going to be soft and firm like that spread out cotton.
소소 세대 가르쳐
Yeah.
리반노지 자기 좀 멋지네 레레지
So this spread out cotton, right? It is gentle and soft, but it's all together, so it is not disturbed. We want to keep our mind like that.
소소 세 리바지다 잡아이나 다 노도도 냐모도 가르이나 지고 냐추주 노지 코로스 파진도 대마도 어다 자초트도 야마네
When we have our mind soft and spread out evenly like this, then it is able to remain still. And any thoughts or feelings, they're just like very small minnows that swim just below the surface of the water, but they don't disturb the surface of the water.
세 자초도 잡아대 자치고 그용 바다 쇼할레 이제는 곧 대통령
And as we tap in to this stillness, the mind becomes vast, profoundly deep, encompassing like the ocean, but calm.
세종주게 사와티다 가리이나 이시에토야 그거 좀마 샤와레레 소모노
Because the fundamental nature of the mind is pure luminosity, then we can bring it to a place of stillness. We can bring it to come to knowledge of any object.
롱제 시 간디질을 따와이나요 노아 노지 나르소타 너 저거주사 예바지 노고 야를 때는 다 들리지 니에네절메 소모노
We can understand that ourselves, others, or any other outer phenomenon or object, it does not exist in the way that it appears. It appears that it has a findable essence, but if we were to examine it, we would see that there is nothing findable there at all.
노도 요 초미비 초와 너 초하던 이 가르이나요 어다 든지는 뭐지매 somebody 다 셀샤도 강가 공시와 문제다 훨씬 더
So then anything that is arising in the mind, you can think, for example, of those upsetting or unwholesome objects. We understand that this appearance of findability is something completely false. They do not exist in the way that they appear. And as we think that, right, then it is almost like a warm rain that dissolves away the snow of that disturbing thought. The mind, it's as if this sun of awareness rises within it, and this melts away the hardness of the ice and snow of those unpleasant thoughts. And with this powerful mind, we understand that ultimately it's for the purpose of bringing ourselves, others, indeed all 6 types of sentient beings, to a state completely free from suffering and a stable happiness.
단다 세 좀보셔야지 마도 다 니방이네 메하이자 니방이네 다 손지토는 요다 근데 지자 다 디지트가 나세하디 다 손지살도 도바니 그저
Think these feelings of affection for other sentient beings, these are minds of loving kindness, right? But they are not the same potential that that mind has at the state of Buddhahood. Therefore, for the sake of all sentient beings to really actualize leading them to freedom from suffering, may myself actualize the state of complete enlightenment. So we'll pause there.
오야 다 간저 클로시다 했다가 로레 나가서 손지에서나 용단다 데레도스 세 무기야 강가 강이적이 요조데 파 좀아서 손세야 되세요.
Right. So Geshe is saying the Tibetan word for sangye, right? If we talk about sangyeya, right? It's kind of an active thing. So it's like becoming Buddhified almost. I would translate sangyeya. It's like becoming Buddhified. So sang, yeah, so Geshe is saying sang, tamadi sangyeya davalason, ta sangdirwa, kange chatsangwa sangwarwa. Yeah. So sang means to clear away everything that causes problems, to purify all difficulty. That's the word sang. Je means to flourish all types of wisdoms and positive qualities.
This one, or that the rich that this trust don't try
So because we can become like that with our practice, this is why some teachers say that it is like there is a Buddha within us. And in order to be able to actualize that, then we need to begin with understanding the points of how things really are. So we'll go to Words of My Perfect Teacher, and we will go to the section on impermanence. So we are on, in my text anyway, and I'm sorry if there's different page numbers, that's just how life ends up sometimes, but in my edition of the Padmakara, revised edition of Words of My Perfect Teacher, we're on page 48, the second paragraph. Oh, right. Duche tam chato. Yeah. Younger sung sorry go nega.
So tam dishi yara was dishi ba.
Yeah.
Dere sa yara.
Yeah, how could
You know ne yasho te mata ban dishi ba.
So within a Buddha's mind, Gonda Sangyegi Sem Nanglula, Dushe di Yaksheres Karisegiana. I'm not sure what it's trying to tell me. Okay. Yes. So in the Buddha's, thank you, sorry about that. So in the Buddha's advice to the practitioners, he says that in terms of the aggregate of discrimination, the most important discrimination is the ability to discriminate the impermanence of all phenomena.
This one, chi tombo tem chi na mata ba. Chi tombo tem, chi suya tombo tem.
Yeah.
Mata ba. Tama tem mata ba.
The first teaching, in fact, that the Buddha gave was connected with impermanence, and the last teaching that he demonstrated was connected with impermanence. So it's not that the Buddha wanted to create us difficulty or upset by emphasizing impermanence, but it's just that our mind at first is like a stone. It's very hard. So this teaching on impermanence softens us for practice. So as a beginner, right, when we hear extensive teachings on impermanence, it might cause a little bit of difficulty in our mind. But it's very important to understand that the context of this is to motivate us to achieve a good result.
Oh,
listen.
Dejendu
sapatamche.
Sabato jenze bi chije yide zolela onshe bi jabota wenyo tar tumonji dijo yo. Sete lonshe pusu tsuba mombo tseme jizi lonshe tongche sete. Toje shewa tong. Nani nashu jacha mombo ye banyo gongje tong geki nyene talo tumbo cheba tong. Kaso nga tong lonshe dan zombi shupoyo jayi lani teri lomo sheba so tama rure tongchis cheba yina lonshe nozi lanyo taba unje magung yi. Jimbi Jimbi jwa she jagi nyoto yoyon som gom.
So, whatever is stored up is bound to run out. A king might rule the whole world and still end up as a vagabond. Many start their life surrounded by wealth and end it starving to death, having lost everything. People who had herds of hundreds of animals one year can be reduced to beggary the next by epidemics or heavy snow. And someone who was rich and powerful only the day before might suddenly find himself asking for alms because his enemies have destroyed everything he owns. That all these things happen is something you can see for yourself. It is impossible to cling on to your wealth and possessions forever. Never forget that generosity is the most important capital one can build up.
This one, that is was in the Askalaka Mandu, or that Bembo Tovo in the or that Benjoto Chimbo in the or that Saint Damandagat and dig up in Conjoach and Rogatita, La watching the taco or Mewachari, and that's more you are.
So not really difficult to understand, very clear here. It doesn't matter sort of how high a position we have, how low a position we have, how wealthy we can be. We could be a farmer with hundreds and hundreds of herd animals, but all of this could change in a moment. It is impermanent. And this is not something that we need to look really sort of far in order to see, right? We see many people in the world whose position changes in this way.
Oh, thank that needs to deal at any one to cause it to touch and bring your little pocket.
And if we take these teachings and understand also the importance of generosity and use this to motivate ourselves in the practice of generosity, then we know that in the end we'll only come to profit or benefit.
자서 첨부 진 유유질이나
Yeah.
어떤 리뷰 첨부라요 알아봤어.
Then it karisegi zambuling kang te sangan so ropa chegre
세서 봐 주주마도 저마도 나는 신대 제가 알아봐.
로스.
뭐지니마도 그래서 돈도 가.
Desentani ke china te kitu atami.
스케치 리라 버려도 대체 저게 하면 돼 와서. 넘벌을 사야마 그야마 추바 먹어도 와서.
Yes.
뭐지니 마도 고추 마도 나 이때는 좀 봐. 메뉴를 고추나.
Yeah.
자서 쳇티 근자와. 하고서
Chiti hamako.
자서는 쳇티바지.
Ale, listen. So then if we think of all of the problems in the world, right, we can think where there is poverty, where there is tremendous hunger, thirst, and so forth, right? Even if our means are very limited, if we can just make a very small offering, a very small donation to something, this is like a drop that goes into a vast ocean. As long as that vast ocean does not dry up, some of the positive potential of that drop, of that generosity, with the proper motivation will remain.
There's
nobody who can start out being a huge benefactor and giving away everything they have, right? That's not realistic. It is said that when a Jiangsu Senpa kare tsoglampa, it is said in the in the Madhyamaka that when a high-level bodhisattva meets a beggar and is able to give them material generosity, that the experience of bliss that he or she feels is greater than that of the arahat who is in meditative samadhi. So he said that these things are very difficult to believe, but eventually we can learn about them more. And Geshe says one day he hopes that we can do a few of the verses from the Madhyamaka Vatara, from the Entering the Middle Way text. Yeah, so this is not an easy practice, right? It's only a practice for high-level bodhisattvas, especially when we speak about sort of the renunciation and so forth necessary to be able even to give one's body as an act of generosity. Yep. And also we know that as we go to the next lifetime, right, that the one thing that can be a firm friend for us and help us in that future lifetime is our previous acts of generosity, right? These can bring real benefit. Yeah. So we spoke about to draw the essence or the meaning of this human life with the assistance of the practice of the 6 paramitas, perfections. So this connects with that as well. If we have a mind that is able to relinquish, that is able to give generosity, as we cultivate that, then the affliction of miserliness will gently be reduced. So connected with this point, Geshe is remembering a story which he will share with all of us later. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So Geshe is reminding you of that verse that said, because all of these material things lack a fundamental essence, may they fall like rain, and may I come by them. But because all of those material things, not only do they lack an essence, but they are also impermanent, as I receive them, may I give them away for the benefit of others. Ashoka, yeah. So many of you will maybe have heard of a great figure from Buddhist history, an Indian king named Ashoka. And one of his projects was to build sort of innumerable stupas, like thousands or hundreds of thousands of stupas throughout the land.
저도 세렌도 와서 손도도 보고 주시가를 셔마 셔마데 톱반다고 손도는 손지를 비내라 저 대렌도 와서
Yeah, and Ashoka was able to actualize the building of many of those monuments to the Buddha. How did he do that? There's the story of in his previous lifetime, he was a child who saw the Buddha, wanted to make an offering, and threw a few particles of sand that went into the Buddha's alms bowl.
어다 대지 간지 기타니 저자 야첨보 또 세렌도 마도 다시 내승이네 데레문도 와서
Yeah, so Geshe's trying to say that, it's really important that when we think of generosity, we understand that more than a material substance, it is a mind. It is the mind which makes it impactful and powerful.
어다 보고 주시니 니세사 지만 소문쟁이 되어 손지 페벨로 가서 kin로기도 와서 케비칼 다 손질 콘도 가윙 원이라
Yeah.
다 셔마 그 포페 컨도네라 손지 그즈 뭐이서 야 말렌 뿌기지 마고 지디토로 앉아네더니
So many of you are familiar with this story probably. So you know that Ashoka in his previous lifetime, he was a child. There was a group of 3 children that were seeing the Buddha come into the village on his alms round. They were moved that they wanted to give alms, give some generosity. They had nothing to give, so they only were able to pick up some sand from the ground. Not only that, but because of their diminutive size and because of the Buddha's very tall, elegant body, in order to be able to reach the bowl, they had to put one another on their shoulders, and the final one on the top was able to throw some sand that went into the alms bowl.
그스야서는 먼저 소리야예요 기대지 뭐 고시마마도 그 주시마칼레 콘도가야 소지 말마 시도시도 왔어
So actually at that time, some of the other monks who were in the alms round with the Buddha, and they acted in a way like almost like his bodyguards. They saw the children coming. They said, "Oh, they're going to throw dirt into the Buddha's bowl." So they stopped him, and the Buddha said, "No, don't stop them. Allow them to approach."
다저 그룹 리제는 이날 이렇게 야보 아슈카 고로
Yeah.
보고 마치 거스마스
Yeah.
대 고로를 로바조키 다 쪼지
So Ashoka was at the top level of those 3 boys who were on each other's shoulders, the one who was able to throw the sand that actually went into the bowl. And the one on the bottom was actually the one with kind of the strongest bravery, because he was supporting the weight of the other 2.
그래서 어다저 들리지래 저도 좀 파시 조세리 조 좀바 셜도야 개자로 말 조세가 노노 좀아서한테 조 되래
So the practice of generosity, just to emphasize here, it's not mainly the amount of material things that one is able to give, but it is actually the mind that one cultivates and what it purifies. That's really important.
어디 되지 다 니바 통제 좀 못아봐를 자디 이거 손도 전부고 지라 전부래래 여타디베 못tuncho 좀 저저 뭔디죠 대다 도제죠 타롱루이 소시 여다 지바자 다다루레 라로 로로보 뼈유 레베
Yep.
뼈유 예체 동체 비다 자총 라소 제 주바노죠 타지 좀 마자이 타메 초하고 차제 접보 로고 두시나 다다 롱요 마자이니 빠메
So no coming together can last forever. It will always end in separation. We are like inhabitants of different places gathering in thousands and even tens of thousands for a big market or an important religious festival, only to part again as each returns home. Whatever affectionate relationships we now enjoy, teachers and disciples, masters and servants, patrons and their protégés, spiritual comrades, brothers and sisters, husbands and wives, there is no way we can avoid being separated in the end. We cannot even be sure that death or some other terrible event might not suddenly part us right now.
단적이도와 당간조 시바 생도와 시바
Sipe kolo. Yeah.
다 시바
Yeah.
시바 세레 다 거의 로제 때를 다 여보용 시그레 이나에 때때보지 게 아마로 어디서 시바 누자오 그 때보지면 여보는 저도
Ale, Yong Sigire. Ale. So Geshe is explaining that the Tibetan word for existence is Sipa. So for those of you who maybe you know some of the Tibetan letters, it's Sarata Sakikusita Sipa. So he's explaining the etymology of this word, and it means that things could be good in samsara, or they could be bad within samsara. So it relates to, sorry, for you to understand this, I have to be a bit long-winded. It relates to a colloquialism that we say, yong sigire. It could be so. So it could be so. There's this essence of it may happen, it may not happen. So that's what this word existence, sipa, points to.
Oh, this one. Oh, that is. Oh, this. Oh, that control to touch it. Mare Tina Cheto to Zazo Lasso, Tata Legit and Dibanojo, Tatal, Soso, Java, Java, Yumbi, control to touch Nesha to Tamoso, Majeba, Yirin, Rupi, Nipa, Mepi, Chano, Yuzombando, J. Joshi, Shungi, Yota, so de.
So, since spiritual companions, couples, and so forth might be split up unexpectedly at any moment, we had better avoid anger and quarrels, harsh words, and fighting. We never know how long we might be together, so we should make up our minds to be caring and affectionate for the short while that we have left.
This one, oh, Patombi, Patombasunji, Zatsum Mato, Sundin Jambola, Nesha Tamo Mashi Diriwa, she is.
As Padampa Sangye says, families are as fleeting as a crowd on market day. People of Tingre don't bicker or fight.
Oh, yeah, what else also no in Yaga Tumba in the so to say in a coco that is it to do it was that in all that Jandi Maja Kanga Shawa, Lele, Zewa Yopa, Kangaki watching.
So just a reminder that those who we have in our life as our family members, as our friends, even our neighbors who are inhabiting the same place, when you look at it, the time that we have together is short. So we don't want to fight with others. We want to be loving, compassionate, and tolerant with others.
Baby,
Taringpo Pinja? Yeah.
Only that Tumba Chachi, that Teji, the Gawayos.
Ale, Gawayos.
Parianzale,
Karichene, the Gims and Comason.
Sishu, that Tumba, I take Cadino to Garawas.
Ale, Los.
Yeah, Tarimbo Pinja in a cockary, Sonson Mother to him and do.
Ale, yeah. And so Geshe said, there's a Tibetan saying that the neighbors are actually the neighbors that you see in the market every day. They are closer to you than your distant relatives, right? So you might have people that are related to you by blood, but you hardly ever see them. And then you have the neighbors who are in your life more frequently.
Yeah. Oh, that's it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that Zipi Katonche to Jewan Jawa Yites, Takumate. Yeah, Tashi Jipi to Deto, Gene. Tumbishan the Dalagon, Shivi, Da Zombore, Yapa Ide, Tatinegana Shadow, Shiga on the song, the Shadow Shiga on the song, Lassi Chason de Teji, Rina, Tivi Zoi, Jishi, a Jisujini Piran and Zapa. So you, it's a Resatavayon, May, Nevi, Shachila, she.
Tishana Mutinijui.
Oh, that's Maluja.
Malo.
Chijasuze Gombitis, Moabi Reu Potron, Noja Kuzon Lion, Demba, Tava Yabala, Tata, Midozo Malipa, Ina, Rure Toncheto, Gene, Batota, the La Chichis, Hina, Chishi.
So, continuing reading. Whatever buildings are constructed are bound to collapse. Villages and monasteries that were once successful and prosperous now lie empty and abandoned, and where their once careful owners lived, now only birds make their nests. Even Samye's central 3-storied temple, built upon the miraculously emanated workers during the reign of King Chisong Dützen and consecrated by the second Buddha of Vajrayāna, was destroyed by fire in a single night. The Red Mountain Palace that existed in King Sonsen Gampo's time rivaled the palace of Indra himself, but now not even the foundation stones are left.
Chisamo Kawayona telling Diu Samoya.
Diu Samosana?
Di Nebashiki.
Ale, loso. Oh. So Geshe said as he reads this section, he's reminded of an idiom which is like wherever the dharma abides, the demons are present when he thinks of these great institutions. So wherever the Dharma is abiding, there are demonic forces that are trying to destroy it. Yeah. So it's true when we think about these amazing places. They talk about the palace of Songtsen Gampo, which rivaled that of Indra, who's one of the Vedic gods. When we think of all of these holy places, so the second Buddha of Vajrayāna, this is Padmasambhava Guru Rinpoche, all of the amazing holy places that he established, but in the course of just 1 hour, in the course of just one night, those can be completely razed to the ground. Or maybe, like somewhere not too far from where you dwell, there were once magnificent factories and buildings, but they now lie empty, and birds are making their nests there.
So compared to
these magnificent places, our dwellings are just like a tiny place, and we are just like a tiny sort of insect sheltering ourselves. So we should not be overly attached to our dwelling. So these passages are a reminder that an ignorance grasping at the permanence of these types of things, excessive attachments to these things and their comforts, right? This is not something that is beneficial. So it would be better to say, here we go. So in comparison, our own present towns, houses, and monasteries are just so many insects' nests. So why do we attach such importance to them? It would be better to set our hearts on the following to the very end example of the Kagyupas of old, who left their homeland behind and headed for the wilderness. They dwelt at the foot of rocky cliffs with only wild animals for companions, and without the least concern about food, clothing, or renown, embraced the 4 basic aims of the Kadampas. Base your mind on the Dharma, base your Dharma on a humble life, base your humble life on the thought of death, base your death on an empty, barren hollow. So Geshe said, let's be realistic. This is something very difficult, only for, really, really people with a high quality renunciation, definite emergence, those dwelling in mountain retreat. So Geshe said that, but there are still these people around. He's remembering the kind master who gave him the oral transmission of the Dza Sungi Sumbum. So that's don't have to say it. So that's the collected works of Tsongkhapa and the 2 disciples. So he was a teacher who was like that. Right. And this Lama who Geshe received the transmission from was a student of this Lama Theor Jampel Rinpoche, who we talked about his experience of emptiness before. Yeah. He was a person who, was able to just really give everything up and say, like, whatever comes will come, and I will accept all of that. He really able to give his life to the Dharma.
This one, TV Toto, Payupum, Matapa, College, Jabol, Nalene, Taba, Lijala, Senjo Kolojoa, Senjitasa, Haila, on she, Hayon Bojajato. Lama Yongo Doneban, Tas Hati the Lude, Deban, Devanoji, Mangoja the Shawa.
High estate and mighty armies never last. Mandatri, the universal king, turned the golden wheel that gave him power over 4 continents. He reigned over the heavens of the gods of the 33. He even shared the throne of Indra, king of the gods, and could defeat the Asuras in battle. Yet finally he fell to earth and died, his ambitions still unsatisfied. You can see for yourself that all those who wield power and authority, whether kings, lamas, or governments, not a single one can hold the position forever. Oh, right. So, those who wield power and authority cannot keep his position forever, and that many powerful people who have been imposing the law on others 1 year find themselves spending the next languishing in prison. What use could such transitory power be to you? So we will end the section on impermanence. Geshe worries that if we do too much of this, it's a bit heavy. So we'll go to Jangchu. Sorry. So remember this. As you contemplate this section, remember the 4 seals of dharma on the Buddha, one of which is that all compounded phenomena are impermanent. These passages are to help us realize that. And we know that these passages too are really pointing at the specific kind of ignorance, the ignorance grasping at permanence, which greatly enhances many of the other afflictions. So we want to sort of deal with that as well. So because, of course, the very essence of the practice is bodhicitta, we will now turn to the section on bodhicitta. Chogadi. Yeah, Jangchu Senpai Donpa Lensu Donda. So, we are on page 220 in my edition, taking the vow of bodhicitta. True absolute bodhicitta is attained by the power of meditation and does not depend on rituals. To generate relative bodhicitta, however, as beginners we need some procedure to follow, a ritual through which we can take the vow in the presence of a spiritual teacher. So then Geshe is explaining that in terms of the bodhisattva vow, and he says he's recollecting that there's a source for this. He can't bring the source to mind right now, but it is said that the first time we receive it, it's best to receive it from a preceptor, from a teacher. But then once we've received it that first time from a preceptor, then at home, right, in front of representations of holy body, speech, and mind, we can renew the vow ourselves. And so this is a really wonderful way to sort of renew the vow ourselves, to clear away any faults that we may have had regarding the bodhisattva practice, and also to bolster and really enhance our practice. So, we need then to constantly renew that vow in the same way over and over again so that the bodhicitta we have aroused does not decline but becomes more and more powerful. And so then we've given the reason why we need to receive it and renew it. Now it gives the visualization for doing this.
대용 늦은 농가를 소지도 전주 선발라 소바 통제 세세죠 분보 샹조이 수시 제다와 이제 사다.
Visualize all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and other deities in the sky before you, same as for the refuge practice. Take them as witnesses of your generating bodhicitta and think as follows.
This one, I'm going to kere
Yeah.
lama mochi tsune gets a domba domba diwas. Tej pimbo na bores, pimbo.
Pumbo, loso.
Pimbo.
Right. So then Geshe is saying that when the monks or nuns come together to receive the novice and fully ordained precepts, je pungi pungro. Pung se na karere.
Pimbo seril ta ki nyepa zishuna ta digal ki domba te lecha ware.
Oh, right. Right. Sorry. So the reason that they gather together and with a preceptor is so that there is a witness, so that there is a witness that one has received and is guarding the vows. So it's the same reason actually that we visualize the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas when we take or renew the vows, because they're going to be the witnesses to our promise. And in addition to that, of course, the visualization serves as a field of accumulation.
Datar no get tai chabe senjen the tonje sera tuma meba tsije the rongi pamar majapa no jijo me pama chebi che tati pama je the jiji nazo ji shong si se po je giji je yo shen de shombi gone xie si bi zhe sha da yan ba nge la.
Of all the countless living creatures throughout the vast reaches of the universe, there is not one who has not been my parent in the course of our succession of lives without beginning. I can be certain that as my parents, they have all looked after me with every possible tenderness, given me the very best of their own food and clothing, and nurtured me with all their love, just as my present parents have. Now, all these kind parents are foundering in the waves of samsara's great ocean of suffering.
Yeah, so
Geshe says that he realizes there are exceptions to this, right? This is a general rule, but certainly, sometimes there are parents in the animal realms who care for their children with more affection than human parents do sometimes. He acknowledges that.
So
Geshe was remembering a story from India of a bus that had hit a calf and killed it. The mother of that bus would sit in front of the bus all day long so that it could not move. And when the driver tried to paint the bus a different color to confuse her, she was still able to identify the bus and sit in front of it. So Geshe says, he realized, like for most of us, we think about the kindness of our parents, and that's going to be very effective for our mind. But if there's some difficulty with that, we can think of other parents or people who we would have liked to be our parents and think of their kindness here.
So
even if, let's say, our parents were disappointing to us for one reason or another, we still keep in mind there's a basic kindness there, right? Which is that we have to travel through samsara, perpetuated by karma and affliction, and our parents were the ones who created us and gave birth to this body, right? So there is that. So, in the sutras it does mention, cultivating this awareness by one who is like our parents, by one who we wish were our parents, by one who has shown us the greatest kindness, by one who is our dearest friend. So there's leeway here. Yeah.
다 딜 좋아 첨부 지시가 다다서 알리스.
Ale, that's true. Okay.
다 걸렸어.
Nganso konso korwa gi jamso la dungen yongire.
파마 집이체 다디 파마 저 대도송아.
konso korwe jatso.
파마 저체 대도 통제 코와 둥아 자소 저 둥아 저 자소 침비 발라시 또미게 모바트비 저 로도 로마임비 로도는 뭐시 응어답이 로데지 신예도나 자 샤도 쇼방 게도 비네 레디도 샤네 선용 매 롱아 셰자 통도의 총바다비 마게 대통지 거의 내들 저니 run이 지워시 타와라 기빠져요.
So we continue. They have been plunged into the deepest darkness of confusion. They have no idea of the true path to be practiced, nor the false path to be avoided. They have no authentic spiritual friend to guide them. They have no refuge or protection, no leader or companion, no hope and nobody to turn to. As a blind man wandering friendless in the middle of a deserted plain. My old mothers, how could I ever liberate myself alone and leave you all behind here in samsara?
다 가로서 로로서서 다 보게 야 마리바티 고고 돈이나 바로서서 다 백 뽑아도 나자 체다 제자 파신 도 되게 여러 마다 손제도 전제 삼바스 가로서 내가 버치 통 되게 하레스 통 첨부지게 딘데 바 주와 노지지 메메바.
Oh, loso. Yeah. So we are sometimes ignorant and prideful, and we maybe have an inflated view of ourselves. But it's important as we read these words to think like this is actually how the bodhisattvas see us, because of the habits that we're stuck in, right? We're like a person who's visually impaired, wandering by ourselves. That's actually how vulnerable we are in many ways. But, compared to how it could be, we're actually not that bad off. That's the other side of it, all of us who are assembled here, we're not compelled to fight in a war, to go to a very dangerous place, and so forth. So the situation could be more difficult. So these passages too are to bring forth, a real understanding that if I were like to practice and achieve liberation for myself, but just leave behind all of those beings, knowing how vulnerable and confused and suffering they are, and think, okay, I'm just going to take care of myself, right? That would be something that is shameful, actually. Yeah. Yeah.
대지 적은 말로 저거 요나 소소 그게 니빠 요나 달래까 제토 요나 고용마자 텔레치 때문에 다된 거 참으래.
So Geshe is recollecting the passage from Nagarjuna's letter to a friend, where he says that we are connected, we are close actually to every sentient being in samsara. So think, if somebody was close to you and they had fallen into a whirlpool and were in danger of drowning, and you could see them drowning there and did nothing, how shameful would you be seen to be?
거의 자치 콘스 쳐져봐. lungelhund 노아다고 노여다. 다들 가리나 델레. 지타시나 또는 좋아매 소소 지워 대신에 지자되나? 대지 강가 파전이 주도 제토아 연발은 가서 고가 요하라 와서네 되나?
So Geshe is just quoting that verse as it reads in the text, and then he says, like, having understood this, then to just seek your own happiness and disregard others, this is something that would be a real shame. And mentioning that it's especially a shame because actually we know that through our practice we will come to a point to bring real benefit to others.
다 되는데 빼나 손질 찾아봐 이나요. 다 동보가 야깔에 뭐 잡아라 왔어. 다 갈래잖아. 타마
Sorry. Sorry, the papers fell down here. Going that. Oh, listen.
다 손질이나요. 좀벌레 빼네. 코로가 알에 동보 너무 강가지 않으려 코 저와 매바다고 내지 요하다. 타마 너무 다 얘도 강가. 하고서 또 많이 또 파시지 요하래.
So another thing that Geshe wants to mention here is, you think of the story of the Buddha, right? And he left the palace, and then it appears that he abandoned his family. And there are some who criticize him for this. But what we need to understand is, having left them behind and then going and cultivating and getting realized, when he came back, he reconnected with those family members, and so many of them became hearers and reached other states of liberation.
Oh, yeah, this one.
No, Jisunke.
Oh, yeah, that when you give a tower, the edge. These are the dog is sent to you to the session, and the judge on you, Sambano, they shall watch a large corner, send you to maneuver. That's all the changes on Monyon be.
My old mothers, how could I ever liberate myself alone and leave you all behind here in samsara? For the sake of all beings, I shall awaken the sublime bodhicitta, learning to emulate the mighty deeds of the bodhisattvas of the past. I shall make whatever efforts are necessary till there is not one being left in samsara. Dishagime.
So that's a very strong resolve and joyous effort, not leaving a single one behind. So, and we think also that each of the holy beings makes this aspiration their own. Remember Geshe Dawa, before she became enlightened as Tara, right? She made this wish her own, in her own way. So we have to emulate beings like that, right? Bring forth these kinds of minds, make them our own, and in this way develop our joyous effort.
With this attitude, recite the following verse as many times as possible. Ho, led astray by myriad appearances like reflections of the moon in water, beings wander in the endless chain of samsara. To bring them rest in the radiant space of awareness, with the four boundless qualities, I arouse bodhicitta. So, Yapokomasan.
So the sentient beings, they are wandering, cycling through samsara, just like a mala rosary cycles through the hand. Yeah. So what we want to do is to bring them to this space of radiant awareness, and in this way they can rest their bodies and minds.
So
Milarepa, of course, we remember his saying that fear of death and impermanence brought him to the mountain retreat, but having abided in mountain retreat and seeing the emptiness of the mind, he now fears nothing. But Milarepa dang Ralotsawa, Marpa dang Ralotsawa. Yeah, but still Milarepa's clan ran into some problems with Ralotsawa even after that happened. So Geshe will share some stories about Milarepa, Marpa, and Ralotsawa later if there's time. He was saying actually because Ralotsawa is an important figure in the Vajrayāna teachings, he wanted to share some stories about him yesterday, but because we were, trying to get through a chunk of the sadhana, we didn't have time to share it.
This one,
So the four boundless qualities, right? These are the four immeasurables: love, compassion, equanimity, and joy. So that's what that's referencing. And this also reminds us that this mind of bodhicitta, right, it is brought forth and made more powerful through these the assisting factors of these other minds.
두동아 시피 사조 통제 타는 럼바 저 되게 야데 이제 라마 하고서라와 샤스 건딜라 텀 라마요게도 전에 롱라 텀비 젠지 샤일 하조 그 대도 그 투지나 주베 대도비 손주지 세 롱제라 통에 와시와 썸
As at the close of the session, visualize that by the power of your yearning devotion towards the deities of the field of accumulation, the whole assembly melts into light, starting from the outside and finally dissolves into the teacher, union of all three refuges in the center. The teacher in turn melts into light and dissolves into you, causing the absolute bodhicitta present in the mind of the refuge deities to arise clearly in your mind. Make this wishing prayer. May bodhicitta precious and sublime arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen may it never fail, but grow and flourish ever more and more. Then dedicate the merit with the lines emulating the hero Manjushri, Samantabhadra, and all those with knowledge. I too make a perfect dedication of all actions that are positive. So this is actually a tantric reference here from Dza Patrul, which is that when the Lama dissolves into us, then his holy body, speech, and mind become inseparable with our body, speech, and mind. So it's a way to request and receive blessings of the teacher's holy body, speech, and mind. Sorry, so I read ahead by 2 verses. So Geshe's reading this dedication verse. May bodhicitta precious and sublime arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen may it never fail, but grow and flourish ever more and more. So he thinks, Geshe says, this is an auspicious place then to rest until next week. So we are on page 221, top paragraph. So Geshe said he's explained it many times before when he's actually given the bodhisattva vows, but we can talk about the 4 practices that prevent the degeneration of bodhicitta in this life, and the 4 practices that prevent the degeneration in future lifetimes. When we guard against those and have the aspiring bodhicitta, this is known as aspiring bodhicitta with the promise. Minsim dampachen, right? Damchachen, sorry, minsim damchachen. Yeah, so the aspiring bodhicitta with the promise. And so the first one in terms of not having that bodhicitta degenerate in this lifetime is to recollect the benefits of bodhicitta again and again. Yeah. The second one is to recollect the mind of bodhicitta 3 times upon rising in the morning and 3 times in the evening before sleeping.
This one?
The third is to remember never to abandon any sentient being. The fourth is to accumulate the assisting factors of the 2 collections of merit and wisdom. These are the 4 points to prevent the degeneration of bodhicitta in this lifetime. Then his Geshe said, if you gather these, even if you don't really want to bring forth bodhicitta, you will bring it forth. Yeah.
That is what I'm that I somebody
and then in order to really be able to give rise to this bodhicitta and to accumulate the 2 collections as its a basis, then we want to rely on the enlightened activities. So we will turn to the praises of Tara, as she is the embodiment of enlightened activities.
뭐야 지저 도마 찌찌바데 당가서 찌와바데 놓쳤어.
Yeah. So then we are, Geshe says he believes we are on the 11th Tara. So in terms of the text I am using Lama Zopa Rinpoche's translation of the praises to the 21 Taras, and I believe we are on page 9.
다 메데 쇼지 다 거럽하게 강같이 꾸니라.
Shokchu?
쇼지 다 로바시기 와와.
Yeah.
어다 대지 강같이 꾸니라. 아니 가리. 소만우지 생제게 되어 더야지 이사요.
Nganso Ming Lama son tambo nganso kawai lago gire do arwa.
지지 바데 녀라 사서.
Yeah, Ming dang shloka lo shi tambo.
메데 소소라데 베다 근도 마세. 근도 마세. 다 졸로가 말로 가르.
Yeah.
샤자 사지 중에 존노 토젠 그반데 마냥 존예여 얘기 홍바 토젠 노바 도마.
Chesa saji kongwe tso namrwa tamshi gupa numeni. Sorry, we are on page 10, the first verse. And so the name of this Tara is Tara who magnetizes all beings and dispels their misfortunes. So the verse goes, homage to you, Tara, who are able to invoke the entire assembly of local protectors, whose wrathful expression fiercely shakes, rescuing the impoverished through the letter hum. Los.
어떤 알아서 쇼지 쇼주 가서 깨지셔 봐요. 쇼주 정가서 한다고 들린 누아스. 쇼주 정가.
제.
아까서로. 어다 쇼지 다 다시 생절 펜바 저 토끼 가와라 가게 되는 대지 강가 찍고 있네라. 아니 생절 펜바 저지
So this verse actually is very similar to the 15 directional protector practice within the Yamantaka practice. So here, this Tara, what she is doing, the entire assembly of local protectors, through her power, she is summoning those beings who may be worldly but yet are inclined to virtue. She is summoning them together in order to benefit others. So, we speak about these different types of gods. Sometimes we speak of the Vedic deities, Brahma, Ishvara, and so forth. So this Tara has the power to sort of summon all of them together so that they can assist the practitioner. So basically, she has the power to those worldly deities who like engaging in activities which benefit others. She has the power to summon them and actually compel them into activities that are really beneficial. So then that's the first reason we prostrate to Tara who magnetizes beings. The second is that we prostrate to her because through illuminating the letter Hum at her heart, she is able to magnetize and dispel their misfortune. In other words, she gets rid of their poverty, beings that don't have enough to eat, don't have enough to drink. She assists them.
This one, or that the Niji is that the Nigga say Tanim, Medu Pemitinda, just drama, message see that. Or that the Nitella that is only that's it in the shots.
So, what we would do is we would visualize her, Tara who magnetizes all beings and dispels misfortunes. A beautiful lotus seat appears, and her form appears as Tara, and she is an orange or golden yellow hue in color, and then we make this praise and request to her. So there's a story of one Lama who, a young woman had come to him who was suffering from poverty, and she asked for help. The Lama himself was poor. And so he prayed to Tara and said, I really don't know how to help her. It is said that this particular statue of Tara was very special. So she took off the ornaments that she was wearing as the statue and gave them to this young woman. So usually statues of Tara, they are sort of embellished with various ornaments. However, there is a statue that still exists today known as the ornamentless Tara, and it is said to be this statue which came alive and gave the ornaments to this young woman.
다 때도 된다고 다 로지 뭐뭐시야 요르든 다 된다 때는 가로소사 세 디니다 대바도 이치도 드리게 돈에 소와다는 다 된데 로바조야 코로 길래요 알아봤어.
So there are many such stories of Tara sort of intervening directly, and so we should have confidence that if from the very sort of bottom of our mind with faith we make requests to her, that when the opportunity arises she is definitely going to help.
시레니 요요 발라.
So this particular Tara who magnetizes all beings and dispels their misfortune, her face is sort of young and beautiful like all of the Taras, but she has a slightly stern or wrathful expression.
Oh, listen.
So the next one, number 12, she is yellow in color, Minglagorebe, Tashi Tamshe. And she is called Tashi Tamshe Jimpe Drulma, the Tara who bestows all auspiciousness. And she is a yellow in color, so not golden yellow or orange, but yellow.
So
when we say Tashi Dele, it's that same wish, like may all auspiciousness be conferred upon you. So this Tara is the one who confers that auspiciousness.
So
Rinpoche's translation: homage to you, Tara, whose crown is adorned with the crescent moon, wearing ornaments exceedingly bright. From your hair knot, Buddha Amitabha radiates eternally with great beams of light. So in this way we offer respect and homage to this bright yellow Tara.
So one
of the reasons that we offer prostration to her is on the basis of her crown ornament. So she has a special crown ornament which is like Dawa Shekarwa, which is like the first of the month when the moon is in half position. Mangru joya. So just in this way, like at this point, it is the waxing moon. So as the moon becomes more and more full and shines more and more brightly, then she radiates these beams of light. And in this way, as she radiates this light, it dispels the ignorance, obscuration, and confusion of all sentient beings. So whatever beings wish for, she is able to assist them. And then also, sort of very near that moon ornament where her Ushnisho or top knot is, there is a small Buddha Amitabha that's represented. So she also possesses all of his qualities, and in this way we offer homage to her. So we are now up to the 12th of the 21 Taras. 12th. Yeah, 12th Senachuni. It's like cardinal and ordinal, 12. We're at number 12. Yeah. So with a mind lifted in joy, let us dedicate the merits. And of course, if you need to get on with your day, please do. If you'd like to stick around for questions, most welcome.
Changchu Samjo Rinpoche Maje Banam Jejur Chi Chewa Nyamba Meba Yang Gone Gondu Pewar Sho Tongni Tawa Rinpoche Maje Banam Jejur Chi Chewa Nyamba Meba Yang Gone Gondu Pewar Sho Jambe Bao Jidar Kyamba Dang Kundu Zambo Deyon Dejende Deda Kungi Jesu Dalo Jir Gewa Dida Tamje Rabdungo du sun shebe gyawa tamshe gi ngowa gangla chodo ngaba de dagi gewe tsawa digun kyang zambe jeje radu ngowa gi kanji rawe korwe shinkan de pendan dewa malu jongwe ne chinre ziwon tenzin jatso yu shabe side badu tenjo.
So we'll pause there, and we will open the floor for questions. Don't be shy. If you have a question, if you do feel shy, you can message it to Dave. He's kind enough to read them out if you're shy. Does anyone have a question? Oh, Dave, I see you. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, we have a question on social media from Bobby Richards, who's wondering if the act of motherhood, more specifically the act of pregnancy and giving birth, the act of giving one's body for the greater good of humanity, the continuation of human population itself, could be considered an act of the greater good. Kind regards and thank you for your time.
Dene Bobby Facebook la di chua chik thang so. Dene di ngaronso nganso di kewa milu gi kewa di ke champo chik redus. Dene amadin so koronso supo puku kea gi chedu yar pugi res. Tao mambo chi kale jau kores, dene koronso gi supo la tene puku chi kea gi res. Di kandes lau kere lu gi jimpa nangshin samlo tang chogire besa.
Yidu ya to was.
Dos.
Yeah, tate koronso mi ya lila tiene ka mi kale mambo chi yar was. O tete kanga kangete sono matoni la. Oda poge de apochayo ge cheta. Tema kita kala ina yo sabi kala hale yo za saki tani yar mo mo yar.
So Geshe said absolutely. In fact, this is the generosity of the body, you know, that the mother, it's not comfortable in many cases being pregnant, and she is not paying attention to that discomfort, more worried about her child, and you know, she's maybe not eating the things that she normally likes to eat because she wants the things to be very best for her child. So this is a type of generosity of giving one's body.
And
you know, actually there's many passages about recollecting the kindness of our mother, and if you read over those, you know, there's a lot of sacrifices that mothers make, of great kindness.
So
His Holiness the Dalai Lama has shared that in terms of love, in terms of compassion, in terms of being merciful, that the first guru of all of those things was really his mother. Yeah. So definitely, you can think of it in this way. I think Annie is next. Go ahead.
Hi, it's really nice to be back.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Thank you for the teaching, Geshe-la and Kedrib. I really missed everyone. Even though I practiced very diligently the whole time while I was not able to come here, I felt like when I came back into class that I just lacked sincerity. And how do I work on that?
You just what? Lapsed?
Lacked on sincerity.
Oh, lacked on sincerity.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And how do I work with that? Because I was doing everything, but it just became a little bit rote, I think.
Yeah. Ko dunja kashe zintra la leb tu maso rwa dene di kapula ko kandes lau gore gya thamba kandes lau gore ngene sem tingne yiche kiawa se tets kale kapure duas rwa ane kunong yapoti sem tingne gi kunong yangyarchi kandes kiagos.
Kandes
Yeah, zinta ma lebne dene ko kandes lau gore sem shu kia di tets meso rwa kunong nampa dakpati tets meso rwa dene di sem shu yange kandes chi kiagoresa.
Ta le la sho ji de. Somba je de so na ro de sho den ro sa de ji ta ta so
Yeah, so Geshe-la finds one passage very helpful that through thinking of the welfare of others, one's own welfare is naturally achieved. So he finds that a really good way to rebuild motivation.
다 된다 지세 타투 된가 조가리 자자야 돼. 예. 세제 요도 자 첨부 쓰가래. 강로 가리나 비도버 그래서 지세 투사 가와 투야잖아. 소소소 캐거근도 조거근도 와스.
캐거기도 좀
계속
캡상 로스.
계속 그거도.
Yeah.
조거근도 와스. 지세 강가 뒤투야.
Another really useful thing is to think that when we come together, right, it can sometimes feel like a duty, right? Like, because all sentient beings are connected with me, then I have to have this motivation for all sentient beings, and I'm like trying to work towards the final goal for that. It feels rote, and it can feel like we're losing something. So it's really important to remember we're not losing anything by thinking of others. In fact, we are only gaining something.
다 로로 소소를 다 비가 다 알레르 체 도워 다체 도워서나 또 가서 저기 세 그거도 손지 공부 그거도 세대오 지세 레도 레테네 알레 지세 동보대 소소를 계속 그거도 주 그거 매해서 가리나 단다 놀래지 그거 알아.
So, you know, we speak, like, during the teachings we speak on a high level usually, right? We're speaking from a space of bodhicitta, and we're saying that I need to reach Buddhahood, not just to benefit myself, but to benefit all sentient beings, and that's what I'm going for, right? But if we simplify it and put it like in a very kind of simple capsule to think about it, we practice because we don't want to lose out of this opportunity of this rebirth. We want to come to a profit of it. So that's sometimes helpful to remember as well.
Yeah. 어다 대비 지세 첨부지래. 어때서는 또는 된대다 로로소소 자 첨부 쓰고요. 이자 다 그냥 캔델라 좀 되어 시워서 와서
So you know, we can go back to that, and you know, this is of course part of it, right? That we are important too. We see our own welfare as something to be concerned about, and every time we come, every time we put a little bit of effort in, we can only come to a profit. There's never going to be a loss. And if you start there, then rebuilding that sincerity and resolve can all start from there.
That's helpful. I actually felt like I was losing my own welfare, and I was more interested in helping others. So then it was a sort of losing grounding of some kind.
Yeah. So 젠든 소 삼로 탕네 데네 랑든 간소 삼삼 쇼르기다 보레두아스.
메메 쇼그만 두아스 메긴야다. 소소 대시 템포치도 조야 메바지 그건 되나? 좀바도 니질라 되는 용거도 예케자 알레 쇼르케자레 두아스.
Geshe's not so much worried about that happening, because actually it's through bringing forth love and compassion for others. We can't necessarily give them happiness and relieve their suffering right away, but when we do that, we create the causes of our own happiness. So as we think of others, we're naturally taking care of ourselves anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, if the other's welfare was like, we're kind of just a doormat, and we're like, I'm your servant, just do whatever you do, and I'm under your control, and I don't have free will or something, then yes, like, then you'd have to worry. But if you're thinking in this kind of way, he doesn't think you need to worry about that so much.
Okay, thank you. Feeling better.
Yeah. So it actually goes to the quote that he started at the beginning, because sometimes this happens, right? As we become more focused on others, there's this natural pulling back and being like, well, have I forgotten about myself? But if you start with this awareness that through working for the welfare of others, I achieve my own welfare, you'll never lose touch of your own well-being.
Yeah, okay. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, he still has something to say, Annie. He's not done yet. And that's why His Holiness says that the smart, self-cherishing people are the bodhisattvas, right? Right? He often jokes like that, right? Our self-cherishing is like the meaningless, foolish kind of self-cherishing. Thanks so much, Annie. So I think I see Nadia. Go ahead, Nadia.
Hello. Thank you for the teaching. I was just wondering if you could elaborate a bit on the quote from the 4 basic aims of the Kadampas on the last sentence, if you've got it to hand. It says, base your death on an empty, barren hollow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sounds lonely, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask Geshe about this. Kadampe nganso tambo nganso di kajupa denso konso chatsangwa parne padrogi resro ane DJ la kunzang lame jelung nanglo la kadampa netsu ji yerwa tambo di soso chiwa kapla soso sacha kucho mi mepagi ikung dapochi trongsho di testreshi jaro chesa.
Ale.
Yeah.
다 nga chi shaya ge che da chi shaya ge che da de sa ja tu mal ro ge is kilachi
Yeah. Yeah.
ndi so ma
Yep.
da tin do ne tane sa de ke sa ya do thwa ka ri na ka nga che na tenga del che ge me.
So facing the death, Geshe said, we don't necessarily need to take that literally. We can see it as a resolve of these Kadampa masters. So first, they're resolving to go to a remote place in retreat. So they are leaving behind what's familiar and going into retreat. They know that because it's a remote place, they might not have nice things to eat or a pleasant place to dwell. They know that they might not have great conditions. And so thinking that, okay, even if I die here, I am still going to practice, that's the sort of resolve that's being pointed to.
다 tane za tane ka nga che so ka le chi chi shen ro ge wa shen no shen ga de sa chu so me da.
And then, so there is an awareness, right, that I'm going there, it's remote, and there's these difficulties. Potentially, I could die there. But then one has this awareness, I could die there, but at least I'll die practicing dharma. So that's not such a big deal. That's kind of the awareness.
ta ji ma le ri pa yong nan jo me ni ge son se te la thama ko ro tum bi ka la mi shi tu ke me ba da ma da ke che ke me ba sa ja tim ba chel.
So that's why Milarepa, he had this outlook, right? And that's why he said, when I die, may I die alone, with no tears, with no one lamenting, with no disturbance. This is the yogi's wish. So Geshe said, not an exact quote, but it's from one of Milarepa's songs, and that's really the essential meaning.
Yeah.
Hagosung. Yeah. So these are the 4 basic aims of the Kadampas, and they're a mind training text. Karere. Oh, and netsu diaris. Yeah. So Geshe said, we don't want to necessarily be literal with how we take everything, but we can understand the meaning here, right? Which is that when we practice, we have to be willing to have some difficult conditions, because if we think in order to practice I need this, and it needs to be like that, and I need to have all of that, then you're never actually going to do the retreat or practice, right? So there's the story of a holy being who thought, I'm gonna do retreat when all of the conditions are right, and then he realized, wait, I've been saying that for 20 years. Right? So it's not going to be really realistic for most of us to practice exactly like this. A lot needs to be in place. But what about it can we apply to ourselves? We can apply it to turn our mind to the dharma, to understand that everything does not need to be perfect to engage in the dharma practice. All of this discussion is really for the purpose of bringing our mind in alignment with the direction of the dharma. Teo Chöpen Rinpoche. Yeah. So, Pabonka Deche Ningpo stated, he was speaking about 2 of his students. One was Teorjampa Rinpoche, who we've spoken about, who dwelled in mountain retreat. The other was one who remained in his house at Sera, practicing. And Pabanka said that although there is one who is practicing in the mountain retreat and the other who is practicing in the monastery, there is no difference in their realization. They brought forth the same realization. So the place is not necessarily the determiner. So Lawa Gen Gyaltsen was the name of the monk who remained in the monastery and also practiced to this very high level. Both of them were said to have become bodhisattvas in that lifetime. So Teorjampa Rinpoche, he's passed away now, but while he was still alive, he met His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama and was able to offer him his realization of emptiness. And he had passed away after that while in India. So Aisha said a bit of meander, but hopefully I think we answered Nadia's question. So is there anybody else who would like to ask something? Okay, it's a little quiet. And Dave, is there anything else on socials that you're seeing?
Only on Facebook a request to sign a petition.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. I mean, look at the Facebook if you're interested in that, folks. Okay. Yeah. So Geshe will end with a story then, and then we'll call it a day. Maybe it's a bit of a weird story. That means he's afraid you're going to like it or not. So it's a bit of a strange story. So this is a story about Ralotsawa, and Ralotsawa was a great yogi of the Yamantaka tradition, and it is said that he received many of the essential instructions on Yamantaka directly from the deity itself. Ralotsawa michu sam separes.
Yeah, that
Yana chikire dingamadi marpa de dontin sa. Chusum malabata consolance. So san yonja tugire.
Yeah.
So this is a story that relates to Ralotsawa and one of Marpa's. So Marpa was Milarepa's Lama, right? One of Marpa's sons called Karma Döde. His name was Döde. And so Döde, Marpa's son, he possessed an instruction where the consciousness could be transferred to another's body and even to a corpse. So like a specific kind of poa, a very powerful but dangerous instruction. So Ralotsawa was concerned about this because he thought if there is like an instruction that people can just transfer consciousness into another's body and take it over, or into a corpse, this could create all kinds of problems and difficult situations. So Ralotsawa sort of thought it would maybe be better if this wasn't around. So you have to understand that Ralotsawa, he was a liberated being, right? And so he was thinking in this way due to his compassion. So
아마 tumba 주야레스 tumba
종바.
잘라 파츠 둔데게
종도 되게레스 로아 되네.
아마 로침보치 차게 차게 쇼워서 요레스 잘라리 노로 요알려니
수모론 통성 랄로자와 통성 the dharma dode 통성.
세타만도데 가도
Right.
제사이
So Marpa's son was wandering, and he came to a market. And when he came to the market, there was a woman there who was selling various things, and she was very nervously trying to organize all of her belongings.
다 아마 저러 가르치게요 세르다 아마 티세네라 다 드리 만주 자사 질 자살 마테 모 쇼지요레스
And she said, like, what are you sort of packing up, preparing to go?
야 테마도
She said that she was putting together all her things to organize them in clothes because she had heard that there was something very interesting happening in town, and she wanted to go there.
맞아 아 가도 제사이 드니 세타만도데 노로 요아가네라 다 나트리 때못하간로 이스 이가
And so Dharma Dode, Marpa's son, he thought, oh, I want to also see that. So he found out where she was going to go, and he thought, I'm going to go to that place too.
다 지치는 레돈 저와요 저러 지치는 괜찮지 마박 다 드리 저러 때못하가 마로 바치 쳔보요스
Marpa Korangi Palae. So he first took leave of his father, but his father said, if you leave today, you're going to have a big obstacle. So actually, it's better you stay home and don't go.
드니 가zel라는 코팅 로야가 아마 때문에 오기 때가 이니민지 다 드리 때못하가 로이 다 때문에 쇼요사레스
But Dharma Dode didn't want to listen to his father, Lama Marpa, and he thought this woman was so excited about it, so I'm definitely going to miss out if I don't go. So he decided to disobey the order.
아마 때 내시 잡을 때는 코페드 세차때 로야 대화치 모서 잔디와스
From the woman in the market telling him how wonderful this thing was going to be, there was just no turning back from his wish to go there.
드니 다 마박과 도메르와스 다 가시 저런 로이나 때못다서 증거를 갖추는 마데 아스까지 이니민지 지기 탈 마데
So he went back to his father and he said, I'm going to go anyway. And then Lama Marpa said to him, okay, go, but whatever you do, make sure you sit in the back of the assembly. Do not sit near the front, no matter what you do.
일단이 야야스를 다는 것 때문에 같이 말해. 때문에 만도를 그 마박 보고 다 깨닫지 못이 이사로 왔어. 아니 지 마시 또 옆에서는 강가 마시네 코팅 거야.
But he ran into a problem because when he came to the assembly, he was recognized as Marpa's son. And because Lama Marpa was so widely respected, nobody wanted to sit in front of him. And slowly everybody started moving behind him and pushing him to the front.
다 세ring이네 대속을 잘라서 가니 녀도 차서 사자치 밖에.
So eventually what happened is he ended up in the front row, sitting right beside Ralotsawa.
아니 다 라서 그 명한테 뒤자대 매와서 여기 돈에 또 모는 데와요.
And so Ralotsawa still had this wish. He said, I have to get rid of this instruction of people just transferring their consciousness all over the place. That's not a good thing.
다 뒤에서 노사와 여러다 강가야 보니 타마도 강가야 보니 해놨어.
Yeah. So Geshe said now the story gets a little scary.
드니 갈래지는 그런 다 자트는 깨지시는 때문에 내가 왔어.
Ralotsawa dan damada. Yeah.
아니 라로사가 콜레지 빠치 돈이라. 아니 저러 시에르 미빠템보 요베스.
So anyways, they started talking and they were engaging in some polite conversation, and then Ralotsawa decided to ask Dharma Dode a question, and he asked Dharma Dode, are you stable in your meditations on the generation stage? Kirim tembo.
어때서 될었더니 다 기어 세 담한도 되게 픽 파쇼된 것도 요 바다마 거네나 킹이네 있어서 나 디세 찔마도 못 찾대 뭐요.
And Dharma Dode, being an honest fellow, he replied to Ralotsawa, I'm usually stable in my generation stage meditation except for one part of the day. One part of the day.
다마 판도비가 따야 셰게 딜라. 세트 노예 쇼로 때는 저거요 봐도. 데디세 때마다 나타가 디나 때뭐요.
He said, when I'm mounting the horse, from the time I get the other leg over to the other side of the horse, somehow I get distracted and I lose my appearance as the deity.
다 주시는 사람이다. 서서 인바테시에서게. 근데 다 세레 다 달라서 하고 살아왔어. 세레 다 콜타니 데데레 다 고모게노는 따야 셰가도 센지전도 럼럼 다리시 저바테네를 따은 걸. Se tamado de chat tayo
Yeah.
Tangol senje yenda zik chwa tiani la ralo zawa.
Yeah, hago
Tane tatu pon.
Shik Buddha Boshi, right? And so this is what happened, right? And that's the very sad end to the story, which is that Ralo Tsawa knew that Dharma Dode was on the horse. He emanated some sort of lice or something in the horse's mane when Dharma Dode was mounting the horse. And this way the horse took off very quickly. And this is how he passed away.
Ta tani ko tak chani le ta kuwachi phela yo wa. Ta kasa kal chani la.
Adi di mala ko tronson lamna tegi do. Ko supola habe pekanga te konso kale kale di la.
Tene ta so te dushe se ke so te.
Yeah.
Ta tani jone ta ko ta res.
Yeah. So in this way Dharma Dode passed away.
Tan do sare ta ina yo tane ji mobaga. Akosara ji mobaga ta kol poi menga chembo jani lo ko ya zoya legacy vares.
However, keep in mind that his father was Marpa, and Marpa, very distressed at his son's passing, he thought, I don't want to be without him, and he performed a poa ritual. And in this way, Dharma Dode was able to come back to life.
Ta ina iti menga te jabala yinji minja rochi mena. Ko se phag dosa chi gogendi was. Ki rote te temor meba zo chandius.
Ale ro. Yeah. Agusung.
Se shi se tamando de rote zum chaso mea isa sipo.
Yeah.
Ko pan rosa mundi was.
Ale
rochi gogendi was rochi dachi.
However, because the body was damaged from falling from the horse, Marpa realized if I do poa to come into his old body, right, that's not going to be a suitable place. So he thought there should be another corpse that is in better condition where his consciousness can go. And at that time, Ralotsawa, also being a great siddha and understanding what Marpa was thinking, he manifested something so that there was not a single dead body to be found for miles around. And so, as sort of like a temporary stopgap, there was the corpse of a bird that Marpa was able to find, and he transferred his son's consciousness to that bird for a moment. And so Marpa said to the bird, because of what Ralotsawa did, there's no sort of suitable human corpse where you can abide, so you need to fly to India.
So
the bird came to a cemetery, and in this cemetery in India, the bird landed when a great Maharaja was performing the funeral rituals for his son. So at that moment, the consciousness of Dharma Dode left the bird and it entered the prince's corpse. And then the king, the Maharaja, was overjoyed. He said, my son's come back to life, right? Because the corpse, of course, was sitting up with that consciousness there. But the king was very smart and eventually realized, actually, it's probably not my son that is inhabiting this body anymore, but understanding that whatever being was inhabiting the body was somebody who would bring benefit to others, he thought, okay, I will act as if it is my son. And so this Dharma Dode's consciousness in this body of the Indian prince, he became a great Mahasiddha who benefited many sentient beings. Rechungpa.
Jaga chi le songas.
Tu songa.
Jaga. Jaga nyama chi kan jasa chi ba le bi kala. Ki se tama do de ko jaga me re de garwa.
Yeah.
Yina ki pa ngoshi songa. Chi ngoshi ma shi ba le.
Dharma do de tsungo ma she ba se. A pa ma.
Se tama do de pa ngoshi ngi yares.
Ale yine rechuma ngoshi ma. And so you may know the story that one of Milarepa's disciples, so Milarepa was Marpa's student, right? One of Milarepa's disciples, Rechungpa, he went to India in order to receive certain transmissions and teachings. He encountered Dharma Dode, but because he was in this Indian rather than Tibetan body, he did not recognize him. So Dharma Dode knew who Rechungpa was, but Rechungpa didn't recognize the Indian man as Dharma Dode.
To bi kala ane lonzo ki se tama do de pa ngoshi ngi ya isa. Pe po chu. Peke ro jani.
Peke ron jane.
Ko ma shi ngi yarwa cha so.
Ale jakar gi jakar ya
Pe po chu. Ko ha le bi ta pe lo jo do ta peke che to bon du de ni na yo. Che de tra chi ma to ma du das.
Kare?
Se the Dza Patrul Rinpoche.
Oh, sorry, mitse dea Dza Patrul Rinpoche. And so, seeing that he wasn't recognizing him, this Indian prince who was Dharma Dode, he began to speak in Tibetan. And not only did he speak in Tibetan to Rechungpa, but he warned Rechungpa there's only a week left in this life. And so Rechungpa thought, how does this Indian guy know Tibetan, right? That was his first reaction. How does this Indian guy know Tibetan? And so Rechungpa, seeing that he was special, he said, well, you seem to be a special being, and so if you know that there's only a week left in this life, then please give me some special instruction of what to do. And he said, there is something to extend your life, but I am not the one who's going to be able to bestow it to you. And so he told Rechungpa to go to a distant place, and there was a very wise woman there who would be able to help him. If you make sincere requests humbly to her, she will definitely give you the instruction that you need. And so Geshe said that this woman, he's not sure if she was the embodiment of Machig Labdran or if she was the embodiment of Tara, but she was able to give a longevity increasing practice, which Rechungpa used. And he was able to live a normal lifespan. Listen. Yeah, so that's the end of the story. So as this is the end of the story, thank you so much, everybody. He said that it's scary in the beginning, but it kind of ends nicely, right? So we will end there, and we will be back next Sunday if you're free. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. Take care, everybody.